This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast is driven by Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos, including everything that you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for their free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 138. This week on the show, we're talking Specks in Southern Louisiana, as we're joined by a friend of the show, Christian Dubois. All right, welcome to the 138th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, brought to you by Gunner Kennels, engineered for your dog, designed for travel and built for your peace of mind. The G1 series of kennels has set a new industry standard and has put Gunner Kennels in a category all its own. Gunner was started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything they do. Gunner is dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunnerkennels.com. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Josh Palm, and we're your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. Check us out at hpoutdoors.com. You can head over to our website, catch all the past episodes of the show. You can also head over to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you can find quality podcast content, you can find our show. You can also find us across all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're a Facebook user, you can check out our Facebook listeners group and chat with a lot of like-minded hunters that listen to the show. If you're also in the market for some gear, you can head over to the HP Outdoors website, check out our discounts page, and see how you can save some cash on some great products that are supported by our show. So definitely check that out. Also this week, I want to take a minute to just thank Eukanuba. When out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With balanced fat and protein support peak condition, Eukanuba premium performance dog food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the pavement ends and the truck doors finally swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything. Strong, focused, ready for anything. That's a Eukanuba dog. All right, so this week is a little bit different. We had a little bit of a schedule juggling we had to do. So basically this week, Dan is on the interview with Christian Dubois, and they're talking Specks in Southern Louisiana. Christian grew up in that area and, loves, hunting obviously, but grew up hunting with his grandfather, and now he lives there with his wife and kids, and he gets into dog training and photography and all kinds of good stuff. So Dan and him deep dive into that this week. So I think without further ado, we'll go ahead and play that, and I hope you guys enjoy Christian joining us on the show.
All right, and tonight we get to talk to a guy who is very interesting, a guy who likes to hunt a lot, dance on tables, and cook quite a bit. And that's Mr. Christian Dubois, who means the little woods, which he just told me that. But man, Christian, thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, Dan, what's up, man? I appreciate you taking the time out to give me this opportunity.
Yes, sir. And you said you're just coming from your buddy's rehearsal dinner, which...
Yeah, man. Real good friend of mine. He's into the dog training world, and I'm actually serving in his wedding Saturday, and tonight was his rehearsal dinner. So we went, do the whole 9 yards, practice everything, eat a little bit, have a drink or two, and then do the whole get down of what we got to do for Saturday.
So here's my question, because usually weddings that I've been in my wedding, the rehearsal is usually Friday, and then you get married on Saturday. So is there something that goes on tomorrow?
Man, that's a good question.
You don't know what you're supposed to do?
No, actually, I got in from offshore working on Monday. I still hadn't even tried on my tux I went get fitted for my tux Monday. I picked it up Wednesday, and I asked his fiance. I said, "What time is the rehearsal, and where do I need to be?" And that's when I found out about where I needed to be and what I had to do.
There you go. It's nice and quick to the point. Get
Oh,
me there
yeah.
and get it done.
Yeah.
So, man, when I was thinking about this, you know, we want to have a conversation about speck hunting, but there's so much, like, you're an interesting dude. You're known for your crawfish boils, and I want to talk about that a little bit. And, you know, I told you before we started, I was like, I need to look up just a few things about Louisiana. And the first thing that came up was Louisiana Purchase. In 1803, United States purchased it from France for $15 million. And what I didn't realize, like, I guess I didn't pay attention in history class, but this was a huge amount of land that we got. And, by the way, we put a down payment of $3 million down in gold. I don't know if you knew that. But
wow,
how about that? But listen to this. And you might know it, you might not. This is for the listeners.
I'm all ears.
The purchase included land for 15 present United States and 2 Canadian provinces. So this included the entirety of Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska, portions of North Dakota and South Dakota, and the area of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado east of the Continental Divide, the portion of Minnesota west of the Mississippi River, northeastern section of New Mexico, northern portions of Texas, New Orleans, and the portions of present-day Louisiana west of the Mississippi River, and also small portions of present Canadian provinces, Alberta, and Saskatchewan.
I feel like I'm in social studies again.
Well, I'd kind of feel that way too, and I feel like I should have paid attention. But that overlay on the map was incredible. I guess, you know, it doubled the size of what America was, and just really cool.
That's a lot larger than I would have thought. I guess I should, being from Louisiana, I should know a little bit more about it than I do. But sounds like I got cousins spread out all over this country.
That I would not doubt. All right, so Christian, tell me a little bit about Louisiana, growing up there, and how you got into hunting and the outdoors.
Yeah, Dan. So, man, I started growing up. I lived in a little town called Kaplan, which is just south of Lafayette, a few miles, and it's not far from the Gulf at all. And we grew up. My dad wasn't a big hunter. My mom loves to hunt, but that didn't stop me. I'd spent a lot of time with my grandfather. I mean, as soon as I could walk, he had me out in the fields. I was raised on a farm where we farmed rice a lot and crawfish. Well, in return of that, during the winter seasons, you know, your second crop and towards the end of, you know, what was left over from your rice would act as food for your birds. So we always had a good flyway coming through there of specks and whatnot. And man, I have pictures of me in the blind with my grandfather. I was as young as 3 years old. Just had my spade call in my mouth and a little toy gun, and I'd go with him every chance I got. And as time grew on, I was not forced to grow up, but I guess when you're on the farm, you know, you ain't got nobody that's gonna come and baby you around. So I was grew up kind of rough, and it was like, hey, you either learn what we got going on over here, or you go home. So that's what I did, and I'm thankful for it now because I was at a young age able to go out and shoot my own birds and figure everything out, you know, at a young age, and that's kind of brought me where I am today.
So let me ask you, is that time that you spent with your grandfather, for anyone that follows you, you know, always sees pictures of one of the most adorable little girls ever, always out training and fishing and hunting and cleaning birds. Is that just something that's ingrained in you and you're passing it on?
Man. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I was brought up in it at a very early age, and I guess it was kind of in my blood. And a funny, quick story, not to take up too much time, but I prayed and prayed for a little boy. You know, every guy wants a son. You know, long story short, I found out it was a little girl. I was like, oh well, you know, as long as she's healthy, we'll be all right. Emmy was born. She was, I mean, hours old. I had her with me. I didn't want to put her down. I was holding her with me, sleeping on the sofa in the hospital room. Well, I pulled up a video on my phone of it was like an RNT something or a duck hunt video in some timber. Now this kid is hours old. My wife's in the hospital bed just watching this, and first thing that comes up, some ducks coming into the timber, and they start quacking and making their noise, and they blow on their calls, the whole 9 yards. The biggest smile come across this hours old of a child. I got goosebumps talking about it. I looked at my wife and I was like, "Yep." I said, "She's got my blood, that's for sure." And I mean, it's been a downhill run from there. I don't have to force her to do any of what I make her, what I ask her to do. It's all her. She wants to do everything. She wants to be outside training dogs. She wants to shoot this. She wants to hunt. She wants to do this. So I just take her along with me.
Man, you said I'm gonna go talk to Dan about hunting Specks, and she's like, "Wow."
Yeah,
You're in the back. She's
said,
all.
"Papa, can I come?" I said, "I don't know."
We might have to have a little segment with her on here too.
Oh shit! Yeah, if we can understand her, she'll give you a mouthful. That's for sure.
Man, so one thing that I'm very interested in learning is kind of, I guess, the life cycle of the rice fields and how that all kind of works, and then we can go on from there.
Actually, I think it's been planted already for this season's crop, and I guess into July, August, you'll have your first crop. Then after they farm the first crop, the second crop will grow. Take about a month, 2-3 weeks to a month to grow. Then you'll cut your second crop. Most farmers will cut a second crop. Some farmers don't. Some farmers will leave it, and it helps aid in the crawfish. Depending the crawfish ponds, depending on if that farmer crawfishes or not. I guess depends on whether they'll farm their second crop or not. But it also, just like up north where you have, any other crop, milo, corn, beans, whatever, food for the birds up there, we have rice down here. Same situation, But and it all that they'll eat it. They'll come down to it. I find the birds that take to it the most over the years of living around the farm and stuff were our blue-winged teal, which they'll stay. I mean, we have our early teal season, which is early September. Well, now they moved it to late September, but it used to be early September. And then they'll stay damn near year-round, and then your Specks will take to it big time. I mean, if you could plow up rice stubble, and there's ways to do it, to where it's completely legal to hunt over. Once your crops are cut and farmed, then you just up your field in preparation for your next step, for your next crop or the crawfishing. Dude, you get in there with some full-bodied speck decoys, and you can make some magic happen.
So when they plant, are those fields dry? I'm assuming they let all the water out, and then
and then you flood it just like any other plant. You give it water to grow, and then once your seed starts heading out, your rice starts coming out of the stubble, then you drop your water off of your rice, and then you farm it with a combine.
You harvest it. So what, you mentioned a little bit before we got on, but talk about the weather, and is that affecting the farmers like it is in the Midwest?
Man, down here right now, the water levels are high, extremely high compared to what they usually are. I guess with everything going on up north, and I'm actually right on the Atchafalaya River right now at my in-laws' house, literally within throwing a rock and landing in the river, which is about, I'd say, 10 feet higher than usual. And we just got some pretty heavy rains the past couple of days, but I haven't been back around Kaplan within the past couple of days to see. But if I had to guess, that it would definitely, the water levels are probably really high. If they didn't pull their drain pipes, they'd probably have some really high water right now in the fields.
And they already have their first crop in, though.
Yes,
So
yes. I passed. Shoot, Tuesday. We went around the town, grabbed a bite to eat in Kaplan, and I passed by a farmer's field. And I was actually telling my wife. I said, "Look, I said this used to be sugarcane within the past few years, and now they put it back to rice, which is something I'm glad to see. Kind of keep the birds around."
right.
But it was green. It was probably 8 to 10 inches tall. So that's the first crop coming up.
Talk to me a little bit about your weather temperatures from the start of the season all the way through when it ends.
Dan, let me be honest with you. It'd be easier for me to tell you from week to week. Louisiana has got some of the craziest weather you've ever seen. I've literally packed the night before for a hunt and packed no layering system whatsoever. Then the morning of the hunt, I'll walk out the house and have to turn around and go back and grab my gear for a 30-degree hunt when it was 80 the night before. It fluctuates like crazy.
Is there?
And what kills us? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, is there a certain date when that starts? Like October, November?
Usually, October. Our deer season opens up October 1st. Usually, a lot of the WMAs down here, and that's when you'll start seeing your temperature swings. Not that drastic, but you'll get a couple cool fronts. Push a few birds down. You'll start seeing birds scattered around. And then into November, when our speck and duck season opens, that's when you'll get a hard push, cold front, and it'll be in the low 40s, for a while, and then it'll warm back up, and it's like, all right, summer's here again, and then it'll go right back down to the low 30s, below freezing. And what happens is, dude, the humidity is so outrageous down here. You could ask anybody. I've been all over the country hunting. Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, and it is a different kind of cold down here. When it gets cold, it cuts you to the bone. It's just different.
Yeah, humidity is something that a lot of people don't understand, and that when it's cold and humid, it's just like you said, it cuts through you and it hits you harder than a lot of the dry, cold areas. I
was deer hunting a few years ago in Illinois, and it was in the teens, upper teens, lower 20s. Dude, I had on like a Sika merino core base layer, a hoodie, and a vest, and I was fine. And down here, when it's like that, oh no, you pretty layered up. I mean, you look like the Michelin Man.
Well, I know, we went on that conservation snow goose hunt in Arkansas this past year.
Right.
And they were telling us the temperatures, and I'm like, oh, that's gravy. We're good. I got out there. I was like, I should have brought more layers, because it was the same thing as the humidity. I'm just like, that is freaking cold.
What part of Arkansas were y'all in there?
We were south of Stuttgart by about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
But it was a fun time. A bunch of guys from the group and girls, and old Pete got engaged there, and it was
that's awesome. I'm so happy for Pete.
That was a great time. So, but like you said, that weather. I mean, I expected you to tell me it's like 70s, 80s all season long.
I wish. No, actually, I don't wish, but I like the cold weather. I'm a cold weather person, but man, like right now, it's not 10, 15 at night down here, and it's probably 85 degrees outside.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's been in the 70s here, and nights are in the 50s, I think, still. So we haven't even started our summer yet. Yeah,
the summers get pretty brutal down here. It's hard, and I guess it's something I'm used to growing up down here. But as far as like the dogs and stuff like that, it's hard on them. I keep a little fan for Merle and Jet on their kennel, and I make sure they have a supply of water all day long, in between feeds, because I know it's hard on the animals, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So, man, let's talk Actually, one more question on weather. How many times did you break ice in Louisiana last year?
Oh, quite a few. Wait. Let me think of this. No, 2 years ago. Yes, 2 years ago. Actually, me and Tanner Smith, which is one of my best friends. I think he's actually in the group also. We we were over here at my in-laws, and there's a WMA within 2 minutes of their house for New Year's Eve, and I said, "Hey, dude, wanna go duck hunt in the morning? I got a little pothole off the levee that we can walk to." He was like, "Yeah, sure." And his wife was like, "Can I come?" And she's a very, very good photographer. Her and my wife actually shoot a lot of weddings together.
Nice. Now,
Like, "Can I come?"
Tanner's good behind the lens, too.
Oh yeah, Tanner's got a gift. That ain't no joke.
Yep.
That dude is good. And yes sir. And my wife, his wife was like, "Can I come?" I said, "Sure." It's an easy walk. I said, it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be real cold. And dude, when I tell you, she was a trooper through the whole thing. She never complained one time. She had 2 cameras strapped to her. I mean, snapping shots. It was awesome. We didn't shoot a whole lot of birds, but it was just an experience. And the whole morning, we ended up setting up a jerk cord, and we pulled on it pretty much the whole morning just to keep the hole open so it kept freezing over, icing up.
Mm-hmm. So,
But
before we get into some tactics here, tell me, I know that there's a ton of public land around, right?
oh yeah, there's a lot.
Like you guys have, well, all kinds of basins and refuges and stuff like
Right.
that. Is it difficult to find, I guess, to scout and find birds and get on them? Is it overcrowded?
I wouldn't say it's difficult, but it's time consuming. You have to put in your time. I actually learned. I moved here about 6 years ago. Elise has 2 twin cousins, Ben and Chris Berard, which are also in the group. I added them to the group a couple years ago, I believe. And those boys know this basin better than anybody I know. And they kind of took me under their wing, started showing me around. And I got a boat, and I started venturing out on my own, just learning what I could. And dude, there's so much property down here, and there's kind of a specific flyway that the birds like to follow through the basin.
Mm-hmm.
But man, you just got to put in your time. That's what it boils down to. You put in the time, and you get on the birds, and you're gonna be successful.
Nice. So it's what pretty much everything comes down to: getting out and the scout and getting to where they want to be. So
not just unicorns and fairy tales. It gets rough in that basin. I actually brought Brent Navarro and Bobby Bruce with me this past season and gave them a little taste of what was in there. Now these boys are 2 Marines, and I had them clinching to each other in that boat, running down the running through the basin at night with no light. When we got to the hole, they both turned around. Their eyes were about the size of softballs, looking at me. Well, I said, "We here, boys." I said, "Y'all can relax now." It's no joke, man. It's no joke, that's for sure.
Man, I want to get into the tactics, but there's so many other questions I have for you. So I need at least like one gator story or something.
Dude, okay. Want a legal or illegal? No, I'm just joking. Okay, I'm joking. That's a joke. A couple years ago, man, there's a guy down here. His name's Jude Mike. He's a pretty big gator hunter, and we were filming for a little TV show he had, and I went with him. I was part of his little crew, I guess, his pro staff, you can call it, and we go out and film and shoot and whatnot. And he calls me one day. He's like, "Man, come with me. Blah blah blah. We're gonna go ride gator hunting." I said, "All right, cool." I go with him. Long story short, we ended up shooting one of the biggest gators that had been taken around here in quite a few years. It was like 13 foot 7 or 13 foot 11 inches maybe.
Wow.
And I don't know how much it weighed, but I got some pictures of it. And it actually, the way we got it in, we couldn't pull in the boat. We tied it to the side of the boat and drove the boat to the bank. Then with another boat, and a few guys, we picked it up and put it in a separate boat, separate from the rest of the gators we had in the boat already because it was so big. And It was a monster. It was huge.
And these are places that you duck hunt?
Oh yeah, duck hunt, swim, fish, whatever you want.
And so, how about, have you had any encounters wild duck hunting or any birds stolen?
Oh, early season teal, yeah. That's usually when your gators are out. It's still hot. It's September. Gator season is in September also. Usually right before teal season, and yeah, they'll take them. That's no joke. They'll take it. It happens a lot more in the marsh that I find, but like south of here, south of where I'm from, it'll happen quite a bit more. We usually don't take the dogs during that time, but once it starts getting cold and you start having pretty regular occurring cold fronts, the gators usually go into hiding.
It sounds kind of crazy. Do you have any other like rules of thumb as far as not taking the dogs or anything like that? Do you go around with like a walking stick to hit in front of you?
Yeah, usually. I mean, a lot of the places we hunt over here, we have some. It's not timber. There. Let me take that back. There's timber holes like what you think, like standing knee deep, shooting birds behind a tree. But a lot of the timber holes we hunt, you have to hunt out of the boat because the water gets deep.
Okay.
So there's really no way to tell other than being aware of what's around you and knowing just what time of year it is, if the gators are going to be out, the temperature. Most of the time, man, if it's cold, you're not going to see them. But there have been instances where we have seen them when it was cold.
And how'd that make you feel?
I guess kind of. Well, it's part. I guess it's part of life down here, and it is what it is. But like if I know if I'm going hunt somewhere where I've seen gators before, I know there's a lot of gators. I won't bring a dog. But for the most part, they're more scared of you than you think. You make a little racket around them, they'll go away. Now, if you entice them, or if there's a mama around with some babies, oh yeah, she's coming after you.
Have you? I'm sure that you have some kind of story of hearing someone lose their dog.
Whew. Actually, I was younger. My grandfather always had mutts that he grabbed from wherever, and he trained these dogs. Old school ways. And dude, he trained. My grandpa had a freaking Chihuahua a Chihuahua mutt that picked up ducks. I'm not kidding. I have pictures to prove this. And a lot of friends that hunt Miles, actually, that I'm in his wedding, he's hunting with me already with that dog and watched that dog pick up birds. But he had a black lab named Jack. He named all his dogs Jack. He had a black lab mixed with something named Jack. And there was a goose that had fallen in a canal. So he sent the dog on the goose on a blind retrieve, and the dog jumped in. As he was coming out, there was a gator coming pretty hot after, and the gator tried to get it. The dog got away, but that was, I guess, the closest run-in I've had with a dog and a gator. And my grandfather, you know how those old men are, they just rough. Yeah. He was just like, oh well. I was kind of like, what you would have did, and then he was, oh well, we'll get another dog.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
whatever.
Jeez. Yeah, that's one thing that we don't have to deal with, and I'm kind of thankful for, to be honest. But
yeah.
So man, I know you hunt all over the place. You hunt dry fields a lot. You hunt wherever you can hunt, pretty much. It sounds like, and from watching you, wherever you can go, you go and get it done. So. We killed some specks in Kansas this year, killed, a few. So I want to just kind of pick your brain and, I guess we can compare it kind of to Kansas or however you want to do it.
Right.
Hunting lessers and all that. So I guess and here's another tidbit, because I was looking up our speckle belly limits before we got on here, and our spec limit, our white-fronted goose limit, is actually coincides with our Canada limit. So it's the same limit, and that's how few speckle bellies we get.
Really?
Yeah. So there's no...
What is y'all?
What's that?
What's y'all limit?
Depends on the time of the year. Early season, and I guess it depends where you're at too. But you can shoot in some zones 1, some 3, some 8, and then it drops down to 5. And a couple areas are getting hit with those reductions. So,
Right.
But yeah, so if we have a group of Specks, I mean, I'll see a flock of Specks maybe once every 4 years.
Oh yeah, I'd probably lose my mind.
And they'll be around for a couple days and then scoot out sometimes. And that's the same with even snows. Like we'll get a push of spring snows that come through this area, and every once in a while you'll get one that's lost just in a group of Canadas, and you try and get them, but that's kind of the way it is. Yeah. So I mean, hunting around here, they just don't come around. So what's your average day like? What's your average setup? Are you doing full bodies, silos, and
man, it's crazy, man. Now, before we get started, I'm no spec king. I'm no spec guru. There's a lot of guys down here that are much better than me at it. But I find over the years I'm pretty dang consistent with what I want to do with specs. But man, if I had to pick a go-to, it would be a bluebird day with about a 10 to 15 mile an hour north wind, mid 40s, in a dry field with about 24 full body spec decoys, and hunting out of layouts. That's my go-to.
Just 24. Any ducks mixed in or anything like that?
Not really. We don't have a whole lot of ducks landing dry fields down here. Now you'll get pintails that'll come into spec decoys, and you could shoot those consistently if you know how to work them in. But it's not often that we shoot ducks in dry fields down here.
All right, so 24 full bodies. Is there a rhyme or reason to how you set them up?
Yes, I always put the pockets, our landing zone. I guess you kill zone, whatever you want to call it. I always put that, I guess, downwind, so that way the birds will be landing in my face. I'll put my back to the wind, mm-hmm. and hug the birds against me, sort of like in a U shape.
Right.
Not a very perfectly formed U, but kind of a spread out U. That way the birds will land in my face, which is typically your best shot. Now, it doesn't always work out that way because we have a lot of pit blinds down here we hunt out of. That's just the way we do things. And so if, say, you got a blind running east to west and you have a north wind or vice versa, however, sometimes you got to set up to where the birds, they won't be backpedaling in your face, but they're going to be hovering over you pretty low to land into your decoys.
Right.
So you take the Passover shots when you can. And that's not always the best thing, of course, but if you can work them in low enough, it makes for some pretty good, you can get some good birds out of some volleys.
So how you have a lot of water to hunt down there. How many dry fields are available for hunters?
Not as many as you think, man. It's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Now, it's not deep water. It's a lot of sheet water. Sheet mm-hmm. water and maybe a foot to a foot and a half deep. So you can still put a full body. What we do is I'll take like a gray PVC pipe, mm-hmm. stick it in the ground, and then I'll put the stake for the bird in the PVC pipe, and then I'll put the full body on top.
There you go.
So that's kind of what we've done. Me and Miles have done in the past. Now, early season, they'll land in your fields, but they'll land in water also. Now, late season, the birds get very, very hard to work. They're very skittish. It's I can make a spec call cut flips, but in a blind you don't do any of that. You don't do none of the fancy call. It's small 2-3 note yodels, clucks, small clucks, ground murmurs, double clucks, little things here and there, and you kind of gotta read the bird. I try to tell people a lot. People always ask me, man, how do you do this with a spec call? I tell them, like, look, man, some of the best spec hunters I know can barely blow a spec call, because not that they aren't good at spec calling, but they are good at reading a bird. They know how to read what the bird wants and what the bird's going to do. So that's why they're successful spec hunters.
Let me ask can you elaborate on the reading at all? Are you reading the noises they're making, or because there were sometimes out in Kansas that the Specks would come over, and I've never seen a bird turn its neck as much as the Specks were turning their necks. I mean, they were turning like directly to the side and looking, like checking out everything, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
The way I do is the way I explain it to people is, like, okay, you got kids on a playground. You got your noisy kids, your loud kids that like to play, cut up, have a good time. They're playing football, being rowdy, whatever. Then you got your little quiet kids that are kind of off to the side, quiet, mind their own business. They'll talk to somebody, and if the person's real loud or whatever, they kind of keep their mouth shut and go about their business. Specks are kind of the same way. You got a speck coming in, and it's constantly yodeling back and forth to you. So you just communicate with them. It yodels, you yodel back. You talk to them the whole way. Now, when they shut up, you shut up. And if they continue to come in, you pretty much can keep quiet, maybe throw in a couple little clucks here or there just to keep them, interested in you. But what I do is I'll communicate with them the whole way.
Nice.
So if they coming towards me and they quiet, I'm going to keep that call quiet until I'll let them pass me up, 20, 30 yards. Then I'll hit them with a little note or a little sequence of yodels and clucks just to get their attention to bring them back. And once they come back and I got their attention again, and if they aren't clucking, yodeling, calling back to me, I'll shut up again. Now, if they turn and they come back calling, I'll call to them and just call them all the way in.
Nice. So, do you think if you had a larger spread, do you feel that you would have to call more? Like there were more birds on the ground calling?
Yes, we did that a lot last year. I hunted with a buddy of mine. He has a big pile, and I have quite a few dozen spec decoys as well. And there had been several mornings where we'd set out anywhere from 500 to 700 spec decoys just to mimic the feed that was in the field the day before. So a lot of these birds were resident birds. They knew the area. They knew what was there. So a lot of the times those birds would come in making very little noise. So we didn't have to make a whole lot of noise.
Right.
And they just come in because they knew, hey, this is where the feed is at. And that's what they come into.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how especially the local birds are ones that have been around a while.
Correct.
They don't seem to be the loud ones. They know where they're going, and that's about that.
Right. And kind of like, I'm no Canada goose hunter. I can count on one hand the amount of Canada geese I've shot in my life, lessers, graders, whatever. But it's kind of like the same thing. Running traffic with those big birds is kind of about the same as running traffic on Specks. If you can get in between two feeds, now you can put out your big spread and make them think, hey, what I got down here is better than where you're going. That's to me, that's some of the most successful hunts I've had. Now, on the twist side of that, you got to get down on your calls. Like, you got to run traffic. You got to get into your call. You got to know what you're doing. You got to make the crazy sounds. You got to make them commit. And once they do, that's when you back off. Once they commit, you back off and you get back to your fundamentals of what you know as reading a bird, calling a bird.
So how many guys do you have calling when you set out 500 to 700 decoys?
Last year, it was like whenever Bobby and them came with us, we set out a huge spread. And there was three of us maybe. But you call in a cadence, and as long as you got one strong caller in the group that can kind of feed off of everybody else's noise, you'll be all right.
Yeah. And another question, what kind of call are you using, or do you recommend to, I guess, a beginner and someone that is looking to really get into it?
Okay, what I always point to people is, if you're someone that's fresh off the block, wanting to learn how to spec call, wanting to learn how to blow spec call. Riceland Custom Calls makes a poly call. It's $80. You can pick it up at online or an outdoor dealer, Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, wherever. Man, it's probably the easiest thing to blow now. I just jumped into a Moke Gear spec call not too long ago, and it takes a little more pressure to blow, but if you consider yourself an advanced spec caller, that's a good call to blow as well. It's a nice call. Marshall Anliker had one, and when I saw it, I was like, man, let me try this. Let me see what this thing can do. So I picked it up. I started getting down on it. I was like, man, this is good. It's got a lot of volume. It's got a lot of lows and highs. You can get into it. You can back off of it and still make your sounds come out like you want. So that's a call I like. But for a beginner, I'd say a Riceland is probably your best bet. For somebody that's blown a few spec calls and knows how to, make their, I guess, notes come out like they need to, I'd say a Moke Gear. Moke Gear, man, they got so many. Moke Gear, Redbone, Riceland, R&T Barbella is a great call. I've blown damn near all of them, and they're all good calls. I guess it's just figuring out what suits you the best, what you could do the best with.
Now, did you have someone that you learned from? Were you a YouTube fanatic on learning it, or how did you?
Yeah, my grandfather actually, he bought me my first call. I was like 5. It was a Shanghai, it's called, and that I think that's French for spotted dog. And my grandmother's dad is actually Mr. Mervis Salzman. Is actually the man that makes Shanghai. And I was young, so I wasn't real good at blowing it. So he shaved the tone board for me and he made it real easier to blow.
Yeah.
And so I started blowing that, and I'd follow my grandpa. And my grandpa was, you could ask anybody that's hunting around him, he's one of the best damn spec hunters I know. And he never did anything fancy, nothing extravagant, just flat out a killer. And he was real easy on the call, so that's what I learned. I learned the basic fundamentals. Now, as I got older, I started venturing out, and I started hearing these competitions, and I was like, man, this is neat. And I had a buddy of mine, his name's Hayden Richard. He's actually got quite a few trophies and plaques to his name as far as spec calling goes. He pushed me. He was like, man, try this Riceland call. So I tried it, and it was like night and day. I started doing things with this spec call that I didn't know was possible. And I just picked up on it from there and kind of went about my own way of learning it. And I guess it just took off from there.
So you guys don't get a lot of Canadas down there, right?
No, man, actually, the past few years when Bobby and Brent were down here, funny story, I didn't even know. We were passing by a field going to the lodge we were staying in, and Bobby was like, dude, that's Canada geese. And I said, bro, how much did you drink? Like, are you crazy? we're in South Louisiana, man. They don't have those birds down here. And they had some binoculars, and if I wouldn't have looked for myself, I probably would have kept calling them crazy. And but sure enough, it was about 15 to 20 Canada geese, some big graders, big old geese. And we've seen some further to the west by like Lake Arthur. That's actually where we were when we saw those. But growing up, that's more the area we'd see them. It was very seldom you'd see them, but we do see them every once in a while.
So, around here we always get first light. You get your ducks, right, and then a little after you get your geese. And is that kind of the same way with the Specks, or are they closer to sunup?
Yeah. You'll have your early morning birds that you'll shoot. Still used to. I mean, you're shooting at a silhouette, right at sunrise. But most of your spec hunting your good prime time is anywhere from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. if I had to guess. And then, afternoons, a lot of people don't hunt the afternoons around here, mostly because they're going to roost. But I've been on a few afternoon hunts where we've done excellent.
So they're kind of a later flight as far as
right.
Correct. Man,
Correct. Yeah.
good to know. And then, one other question I had for you was just kind of, I guess, any changes that you've seen over the years as far as migration and
Yeah.
bird
Without getting into
numbers wise.
the whole conspiracy deal of what everybody else in Louisiana thinks. We used to, like I said earlier, growing up, we farmed rice down here. Every corner you turned, every road you turned down, everywhere you turned your head, there was rice fields. The birds had food to eat. They were here. I mean, I can remember 10 years ago, I was in high school, and dude, the hunting was great. Specks, there was birds everywhere. And as time moved on, rice doesn't hold its value like sugarcane does. Well, everybody at rice farm started turning to sugarcane, which I can't blame the man. The farmer, they have families to support like all of us do. But so that's what 90% of our fields are now, are sugarcane. Well, of course, those birds can't come eat sugarcane, so that's going to alter your migration. That's going to move things a little bit. Now, west of us, the Lake Arthur area, towards Welsh and moving further west, they still have a lot of rice fields. So typically, that's where a lot of your geese are going to migrate to first. And we just don't see them around my part and Kaplan anymore like we used to. And I think that the sugarcane has a lot to do with it.
And you said some of those fields are going back to rice?
Yes, there's a couple I passed by the other day, and I played a field I had shot geese at right next to for years growing up. It had been sugarcane the past probably 4 or 5 years. And when we passed by and I saw it was rice, I got excited. I knew, I said, well, hopefully that keeps some birds in the area now.
That's I get like that too when I go buy some fields and I'm like, oh, it's corn again this year. I was like, it's been beans the last 4 years. Time to go. And it's what is it, June still, and I'm getting excited about season already. So
yeah,
I definitely feel that.
I wanted to point out was, man, I started hunting within the past few years. I picked up photography, and it kind of opened some doors for me, pushing me to different areas. And dude, I started hunting Sudgard, Arkansas. Was my first little venture out, and when I tell you, it looked like I was God on a spec call up there, because you could take anything and make any kind of noise with any decoy setup up there, and those birds were coming in. I was like, man, this is incredible. Like, this is nuts. Me and Brandon Maskew went up there, and we shot limits and limits and limits of birds within that first season. I was like, dude, this is unreal. Then you come back down here, 5 hours south. Dude, you get a flock of 15 specks to work over your spread down here, you're doing good. 15 specks there. If they flew on and went by you, oh well, you're going to have another flock. I mean, there was flocks of 50, 100, 150 birds coming in at times, and it was just surreal. And Kansas was the same way, man. I mean, we were shooting specks in Kansas over open water with no speck decoys, not a one goose decoy, and we were shooting specks. It was crazy.
Yeah, when we were on that conservation hunt, we're sitting there, we're like, all right, boys, here comes some. There's a 6-pack coming in. Oh, they're specks.
Specks.
And they come land in our lap, and I'm just like, oh, goodness.
Conservation it could be hell on you, that's for sure.
Dude, I tell you what, to see that many snow geese that didn't want to play was fun because of the people we were with and just, cutting up and having a good time. But, at the same time, you're just like, man, if just one of those groups, like, get some juvies in there and come down and play or something.
It's crazy. Yeah. We have a conservation season down here. It runs pretty much parallel with, Arkansas and the neighboring states. But, dude, it's hard down here, man. You'll have some mornings where it's just a banger. You'll get out there and shoot 150 birds. And some mornings you'll get out there and maybe shoot 5. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, that's about what we did up there. I mean, we saw thousands and thousands, and it's just like, it doesn't matter how many I don't know how many dozen we put out, but I mean, we had huge spreads, and they just didn't want to play.
And it gets it's tough. That's hunting, though, man. That's what keeps us going out there every morning.
So, man, it's funny because I'm a huge fan of yours as far as photography goes. You're absolutely crushing it. And you just picked up a camera like a year ago. So
Yeah.
tell me, you said your wife's a photographer, and
Right.
you kind of had a inside track there a little bit, but
It's I guess it's a roller coaster, man. The person I am, like bow hunting, duck hunting, speck hunting, whatever you name it, man. When I was in high school, I played sports. When I jump into something, I go full force. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna give my whole heart to what I'm doing. And whenever I first picked up, I always was interested in photography, and I knew I always saw things in a different perspective. But I never had the access to, I guess, capture it like I wanted to. Well, my wife is a wedding photographer, extremely successful, great photographer, and I started bumping around to her one day. I was like, I want to go take some pictures with your camera. She was like, all right. Well, of course, most people pick up a camera, they learn in auto, put it in auto, take some pictures, point and shoot. No, that was too easy. She made me learn the hardest way in manual, the whole 9 yards. I was like, she was like, she knows the temper I have and the sharp patience. She was like, you're not gonna get this. Like, just give it up. It's hard. You're not gonna. And I told her, I was like, you watch. Like, you're gonna see. I'm gonna prove you wrong. And not that she didn't support me, because she wholeheartedly 100% supports me now. And she always did. But she knew that it was something hard for me to overcome. But
well, you probably started. Now, is she a Nikon shooter?
Yes.
So you started on a very difficult,
right,
a difficult machine.
She shoots a Nikon D750, and she got a big assortment of lenses and whatnot. And man, I had the slightest clue about what I was doing. So I started doing my homework, and I'd ask her questions, but it was real subtle about what she would teach me. I was like, well, I said, I'm going to have to teach myself. And man, I started just Google and I picked up the manual to that camera and learned it and learned it and learned it. And I started figuring out, like how lighting reacted to certain things. And I guess my biggest thing was I set some goals for myself. I was like, okay, one day, long-term goals, I was like, I want to learn this camera in manual and be able to shoot in dark, light, whatever circumstance was. I wanted to be able to do it, to shoot it. And then I set some more goals for myself. Like, I want to have my pictures published by a major outdoor company. I wanted to take pictures in the outdoor industry for companies, just to represent a brand, or just to capture different images of what we did in everyday life. So I started doing that, and as I started learning, and she was like, okay, maybe I'm not that bad at it. So my wife kind of started teaching me a little bit. And one day I was like, you use this camera for work. I want this camera to take pictures with. We need to get another camera. So I learned on the D750. So we went to Best Buy. I bought a D750. And I just took off with it. I'd keep it in my truck. It's in my truck right now, actually, my camera. And dude, I take pictures every single chance I got. And I never switched into auto. I always stayed in manual. Now, I ruined thousands and thousands and thousands of shots. But I've also got a pretty good handful of shots that I consider pretty good pictures,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, but, if it was an auto, then you wouldn't have those handful of good pictures because...
Correct.
It's just manipulating that machine to what you want.
I'm no guru. I've had people help me along the way. Dude, I'm forever in debt for the people that have, some of the big people everybody knows or seen. The guys at Rock House, Hitchens, Matt, Colin, Wade Shoemaker, Connor, Reagan Renfro, you name it, dude. Everybody. There's so many people. I pick their brains I'd bother them with questions, and these guys never hesitated to help, to point me in the right direction. I loved asking Connor and Hitchens for questions because they tell me straight up either no, that picture's garbage, or yeah, that picture's great, and that's the kind of stuff you need. I remember I sent Connor one, like when I first started, Connor Neva. I sent him a picture and I was like, dude, what do you think of this? I thought it was the best damn thing I've ever seen. Connor's like, dude, it's green. Like the whole picture's green. I was like, huh? And I showed it to my wife. I was like, yeah, that's garbage. That's green. I was like, oh, God, all right. Let's go back to the drawing board.
Let's try it again.
You know, and now I'm pretty confident in what I could do. But yet I'm still humble about the people that have come to me and asking me for advice. And I'm like, man, look, dude, I'm okay. Maybe I do know a little bit about this, but we still on a big learning curve right here. If I could help you, that means I'm going to learn some more too. So let's do it together.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guys in the industry, like you named, that are, they'll stop what they're doing and answer you or give you some kind of advice.
Just for those people to stop what they're doing in their busy day just to help somebody, half crazy Cajun from South Louisiana that wants to take a picture, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And those are some of the best in the game that you mentioned. So, man, I tell you, keep doing what you're doing in the photography world because you're crushing it. And, I appreciate it. The doors are opening. It seems like about every other day you're letting me know about one. So that's awesome.
Man, no, dude, I could talk about this for hours, but like I tell my wife, there's no way I'd ever. Well, let me not. I'm gonna knock on wood. I don't think there's ever a way I'd quit my day job to take up photography full time. But I tell her, I say, if I could do this on the side just to pay for my hunting shenanigans, then that's all I want. And man, I had some guys contact me a while back. I guess that was my first gig, I guess you can call it. And they went out on a limb, trusted me with some pictures. They were like, hey, man, I need you to shoot pictures for lacrosse. I was like, wait, what? You want me to do what? He's like, yeah, dude. He's like, we need you to shoot pictures for lacrosse's, blah, 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 snake boots. I said, okay. So I went and I took pictures and pictures and pictures, and I sent them to them. And they were kind of beating around the bush, and it was Hitchens. It was Aaron Hitchens. I was like, look, dude, you got to tell me. Either these are good and you can use them, or they're garbage and you can't. You need to tell me. If I got to do better, you need to tell me you need to do better. And he told me, he was like, you got to do better. I said, all right, I'm going to do better. So I went out and, dude, I put my nose to the grind, and I sent him some more pictures, and I kind of never heard nothing about it again. Like we talk pretty often, but I hadn't heard anything about it. Well, one day I'm scrolling through Facebook or through the interwebs, and I'm getting on the lacrosse website to look at some boots. Dude, I click on the website, the homepage, there's a picture of Ben that I took on the homepage of the lacrosse website. I was like, oh my God. Immediately, I screenshot it. I sent it to my wife. I was like, look at this. She's like, yeah, that's a good picture. I was like, no. I was like, that's my picture. I took that picture. She was like, oh my goodness. She's like, I'm proud of you, And I sent it back to him right away to Hitchens and Matt. And I was like, man, look, I can't thank y'all enough. I don't know why you trusted me doing this, but I'm glad you did. It all worked out. It's opened so many doors for me.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, trusting you with photography is one thing, and something that a lot of people trust you with is crawfish boils.
Oh, God. I think they trust me too much sometimes, Dan.
I kind of want to know, just get a high level, talk about some. I'll tell you what, I had some duck and andouille gumbo in Lafayette when I was down there, which is not too far from you.
No, not at all.
Man, so I'm eating this stuff, and then they're bringing out, like, it was some kind of, like, strawberry or raspberry stuff along with it, and they're like, yeah, you eat that, and then you take a bite of that, and it, like...
Wait, what? No, I hope that was potato salad.
No, dude. Well, it was this restaurant down there, and
What was it called?
this
Do
is
you
this is a
remember?
few years. No,
Yeah.
but it was the best food I probably ever had in my life. I'd have to say.
Oh yeah, dude. That's
So
why. Yeah, diets down here aren't. That's a bad word down here. A
yeah,
diet?
yeah.
No way.
I don't see it happening. So what are some things that people do for crawfish boil that make you cringe?
Oh, dude, when they start throwing all kind of. I boil my vegetables separately from the crawfish, and by vegetables I mean corn, potatoes, mushrooms, onions. That's about the extent of what I like to boil. Now, I was at Southern Oak Kennels a few years ago. First crawfish boil I had when actually Mark proposed to Zoe, and Jason Howell came to me and was like, "Man, have you ever thrown asparagus in there?" I'm like, "Dude, you get your northern butt out of here. I don't know what you're talking about. Get away from me with it." He was like, "Man, just try it." I said, "All right, Jason, I trust you. You're one of my good friends. Let's try it." And dude, let me tell you what, I was impressed.
Yeah.
And needless to say, this year I went back up there for Mark and Zoe's wedding, and I boiled crawfish again, and we threw all kind of stuff in there. They were like, "Man, you want to try this? You want to try that?" I said, "Throw it in. We'll try it. We got 20 sacks of crawfish to try it on. We're gonna try it."
20
So,
sacks.
Yeah,
Whew.
yeah, it was a lot.
That's awesome,
yeah.
man.
One thing I do like to do is I'll throw lemons in my crawfish, like in the pot that I'm boiling them in, and I think that throws a little twist to the flavor. And that's just something I like to do. Now, like after you boil them, there's a couple of like tricks and secrets a few people know. And what I'll do is I'll take like a bag of ice. As soon as they're done boiling, I'll cut the fire off and dump a whole bag of ice in them. And what happens is that cold, it'll shock them. Well, the crawfish will soak up all the juice from the ice and whatnot. And man, they're just juicy and good. And you can't feel your face. And then you got to put toilet paper in the freezer. And it's great. It's a good time.
You can't feel your face.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, Christian, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate our conversations on the side, apart from the podcast. And
absolutely, Dan.
I mean, just I'm proud of you on the camera side of everything. And when you first started taking pictures, and like you said, you set your goals and you hit them within a year. And I mean, that's saying a lot. So
it's been a hell of a journey, man.
Yeah, well, keep it up, and you're in that the Delta little dog.
And I just I figured I'd try to jump in. I enjoy that stuff. They got Chad Duckworth's giving me a run for my money. If he wasn't a good friend of mine, I'd give him hell for it. But I like Chad. But yeah. Hope if y'all get a chance, go. I posted the link in the group. Take a minute, vote for it.
Yeah, buddy. Another thing, what is your Instagram?
My Instagram is christian.lane.dubois. It's my full name on Instagram, and it's also on my Facebook. Like in my bio, I have my actual Instagram handle on there, and my Facebook is just Christian Dubois. I mean, it's mostly it's a lot of pictures of my family, and I like to keep my Instagram more like hunting pictures and Emmy and dogs. I post a lot of pictures of dogs because I'm just always playing with my dogs. But my Facebook is more my family stuff. Anyone's more than welcome to do it, to check it out.
Do you have any website set up yet?
Not yet, dude. I actually told my wife last night. I said I need to make me a website where I could start. When companies approach me, that I could give them a link to something other than an Instagram handle to look at.
Yeah, you definitely need to. You definitely need to get on that and get yourself out there a little more.
I do.
But yeah, man. Well, hey, that's an hour. I said I'd keep you half an hour. I know you just got back from a long drive after the.
Good, man. Good. I enjoy this kind of stuff, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. You and Josh, I know Josh is taking care of business right now, but I want to thank y'all for doing what y'all do with the group and bringing friends into my life that I didn't even know before. Now, because of HP, I have some pretty close friends I consider family.
There you go, man. That's what it's all about. Oh, well, hey,
right,
I'll be talking to you tomorrow probably, and
okay.
I appreciate the time, brother.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
All right. Thanks again for joining us on the show, Christian. We appreciate your time. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that discussion and got a little bit of info about Specks and about photography and all the good stuff that they covered in the episode. So thanks again, Christian, for your time and making an appearance on the show. I think that's going to do it for this week. I don't have Dan with me to ask him for one more thing, and I certainly don't have one more thing. So on that note, we'll go ahead and get out of here. But before we do, I do want to just take a minute to thank Gunner Kennels, Eukanuba, and Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com and sign up for their free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. All right, that does it for episode 138. Hopefully you enjoyed our chat with Christian and learned a little bit about Southern Louisiana and some spec hunting. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out all of our past episodes. While you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It'll help other hunters just like you find our show. That's going to do it for this week. Next week, Dan and I will be back in the saddle together again. So until then, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.